Thank you so much for your time. It's such a pleasure to meet you. You must be well and truly sick and tired about talking about this album, huh?
No, it's part of the job. What do? You just throw it out there and leave it? No, you've got to fight for space. You have to fight for airtime. When I first started, there were maybe 100 bands, and now there are 1 million bands, and they all want their fair share of space.
None like you, though.
I think you have to really help push it.
Yeah, well, it's really commendable that you do, and people like me are just so thrilled to have the opportunity to chat with you about it. What a sensational album. Of course, it's the compilation of 2 of your first solo albums. Why did you choose those 2?
I've always liked them. I always thought, I always wonder why people were so happy about Songs for Beginners. And I realize it's very personal. It's very simple. It's very easy to understand and easy to take into your heart. And I thought that there were a lot of those songs that I'd never performed before. And I wanted to perform them, and so I did. And I must confess that it's mainly at the gentle urging of my wife, Amy, who said, I want to see that show. Yeah, you have to do that show because I want to see it. So what does one do when your partner wants you to do something?
You do it. That's right. Absolutely. So that was the first one in 71 was Songs for Beginners, and you've combined that with 74's Wild Tales. It seems like they're the flip side of each other. They're kind of light and shade, or light and dark, right?
Correct. Wild Tales is a much darker side of me. It exists all the time, of course. Everybody, has light and shade within their being, of course. But Wild Tales was more personal to me. I don't think that the record company particularly wanted it out. I mean, I recorded it in 73. It didn't come out till 74. I think the record company were just hoping it would go away. But I've always loved it. And so I decided on those 4 shows that I did this on, I came out, did Songs for Beginners, start to finish, took an intermission, came out and did Wild Tales, start to finish.
And the audience loved it, didn't they? Everywhere you played it.
I'm afraid they did, yes.
Does it surprise you that you still get the reaction that you get today? And also that the songs that you're doing are still so appropriate for today?
That's one of the frustrating things that, songs I wrote 50 years ago, Military Madness of Chicago and things like that, Immigration Man, they're still relevant today. And it blows my mind that we have not learned from history yet. Why do we?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Chicago, for instance, your whole line is we can change the world. Well, actually, we couldn't.
Actually, we did. Don't forget, there is no Vietnam War. Don't forget. There's a lot of things that really did happen, and the hippies were correct in many things. Simple things like love is better than hatred and peace is better than war, all those silly hippie things, but they were really true then, and they're still true for me today. And it is frustrating that I wrote songs from my heart 50 years ago that are still relevant and still going on today, and nobody has done anything about it.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, there are more wars going on now than when I wrote that song.
Yeah.
I wrote that song, Military Madness, about my father going off to World War II. And there were only, 4 wars going on throughout the world then. And now there's dozens of wars going on throughout the world. We haven't learned one thing.
And yet you started that answer off by saying we have changed the world in some ways.
Yes, we have. We definitely have changed the world. I think that there's this idea of taking care of each other because this is all we have on this planet. I think that is one of those hippie things that I still adhere to this day. We have to take care of each other. We really do. But
sorry.
Go ahead.
This album certainly introduces a whole new generation to your thoughts and feelings, and perhaps will egg them all on to start another hippie movement, perhaps.
Hopefully so. And one of the things that I was amazed at is how much I was talking about computers 50 years ago.
Were you?
Absolutely. There's a song that I wrote called Man in the Mirror, where I talk about, we invented a computer and we programmed ourselves not to see. 50 years ago.
Wow. Do you see yourself kind of prophetic?
In a way, yes.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to agree. Your music has certainly had a lasting impact and will continue for X number of years to come. Each generation just takes it up and runs with it again. Are you, when you went out and did those shows, I would imagine there would have been a lot of young people in the audiences too.
There were, and a lot of young people that were really enjoying the music. Music today, it seems to be how good you can dance, and how many people you can get to kick their foot in the air at the same time. It has very little to do with music, as far as I'm concerned.
So is it a lost craft? Is it and songwriting a lost art?
No, not at all. There's still really great songs being done. That one with Childish Gambino, This Is America. What a great song that is. What a great video. What a great point it's making. I am so involved in the music of me and David and Stephen and Neil and all our archives and all the stuff that we're doing with all that music. I have very little time to listen to brand new music, but I do know that good music will find me. Like the Childish Gambino thing, that found me. Somebody said, hey, have you seen this? You should check this out. And of course, I respected the opinion of whoever it was told me, and I checked it out. So yeah, there are still songs being written today that are really great songs. No doubt about it.
But as you said in the beginning, when you started out, there were 100 bands. Now there's 100 million, not necessarily 100 million good ones. That's for sure. Anyone can do it. It's easier to make the music, more difficult to sell it these days.
Indeed, more music, more difficult to sell it. And that's one of the things why we have to do interviews with people such as yourself. You are our lifeline to our listeners. If I wasn't going to talk to you, I would have lost the opportunity. What is your listening ship? 250,000 people?
No, I've probably got a couple million.
There you go. A couple of million people are going to hear the words that we're saying right now. And I hope that my shows of Songs for Beginners and Wild Tales encourages other kids to start doing exactly the same, because we are all links in this incredibly long musical chain that stretches all the way from somebody banging on a log in a cave a couple of million years ago to Britney Spears.
And beyond. That's right.
We're all part of the same chain.
Graham Nash, you started very young, didn't you? It was the early 60s when you formed the band The Hollies with your good friend Alan Clark in the UK.
I was 20, yes.
You were 20, amazing. And before that, you'd been playing music already at home.
Yeah, I've been making music since I was 13 years old.
It's amazing. You obviously knew exactly what you wanted to do with your life, and you're pretty lucky for having known that.
And more importantly, my mother and father knew about my passion for music, and they encouraged me to do it. They didn't hit me upside the head and say, you got to get a real job because this music stuff ain't going to last for 10 minutes. And here we are 50 odd years later, and you and I are talking about music.
Yeah, it's amazing. Alan and you had a very special chemistry, and I believe you've got, well, actually, I want to come back to the music that you're making with Alan. But when you formed the Hollies with him, you had a very special chemistry going on right from the start, didn't you?
Yes, we did. And because we had known each other since we were 6 years old, and we had been singing together since we were 7 years old. We would sing in the school choir. We would sing the Lord's Prayer. For some reason, Alan always took the melody, and for some reason, because the melody was taken, I always sang the harmony. And that's how we started. I have actually written a song for Alan's album. I'm not sure he's going to use it, but it's called you know, A Song to My Oldest Friend, because he is my oldest friend. I mean, I'm 80 years old now, and I met him when I was 6. So he's been my friend for 74 years already. You know,
amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Talking about you being 80 years old, and congratulations on that milestone. You look in fabulous shape. What's your secret for staying so fit and well and healthy and fabulous at 80?
I believe
Don't say
in
a good wife.
No, I believe in myself. I believe that I have a decent heart. I believe that I'm trying to do good things with my music. And I think I'm correct in that, you know.
You take good care of yourself, though.
I take great care of myself. I eat well. I eat, you know, good food. I'm not a fast food junkie. And, you know, you got to understand, the only time I know that I'm 80 years old is when I look in the mirror, because I certainly don't feel it.
Yeah, that's great. And you exercise too? You look like you work out.
I do.
Amazing.
It's just, the whole thing is just a muscle. The body, the brain, everything. The songwriting, it's the music. It's all a muscle that you must keep exercised. You have to keep blood pumping through it, all of it.
Right.
And that's what I try and do.
So you practice music every day and you continue songwriting too?
Every day. Why not? That's the best thing I do. So why would I not want to do the best thing I do?
Yeah. The songwriting's not infused with drugs anymore. I assume it's not. Is it better as a result? Less good as a result? Different?
Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows if we had never taken a drug, whether we would have created all that music. Nobody knows whether we had overdosed on all those drugs, would have made music. Nobody knows. You don't know. We were smoking dope. We were snorting cocaine. Everybody in the world knows this about us and our history, you know? But would the music have been better had we not smoked dope or snorted cocaine? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'll never know.
Yeah, I read somewhere that the dope was fine. It was the coke that actually split Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young up that got in the way.
That's not quite correct, but it is correct that it got in the way. But it certainly was not the breakup of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. What we did is that we lost our connection to each other as musicians. Once that metaphorical connection is severed, you can't put the ends together and make it flawless. It gets lumpy. The knot is not right. You know, the tension's wrong. That connection, it's gone.
Right.
We have to love each other to be able to make music like we do. We have to love each other, and we don't now. So there's no music, and that's the way it is. But look what we did for the last 50 years.
Undoubtedly, what you've given the world is just incredible. You enjoyed Crosby, Stills and Nash better than when Neil Young came along, didn't you?
It's not as simple as that. With the first Crosby, Stills and Nash record, we had created a voice. We had created a voice by combining our individual voices and trying to make them into one voice. We did a pretty good job. That first Crosby, Stills and Nash record is quite something. When Neil joined, we had to shift. 4-part harmony is way more difficult than 3-part harmony. And also, as a character, we had to shift. Neil, don't take this wrong, but Neil is darker than we are. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. He just looks at the world differently, and he brings a dark edge to our music that we didn't have as Crosby, Stills and Nash. So drugs didn't drive us apart, but they certainly didn't help.
Yeah. You don't miss those days with the band?
Sorry, what was that?
You don't miss those days with the band? Very happy on your own now?
I certainly miss them. Of course. Look at the music that we made. Look at the times when I play Stephen a new song I'd written called Teach Your Children, right? And he listened to it, and I got to the end, and he said, "Not a bad song. Don't ever sing it like that again." I said, "What?" He said, "You sound like Henry VIII. This is how Teach Your Children should go." And that's when he put that beautiful Stephen Stills right hand picking, beautiful sound that he creates. But yeah, I miss moments like that. I miss moments when Stephen said, "Hey, I just wrote a new song. Do you want to hear it?" And he plays me 4 and 20 and breaks my heart. When Neil writes, "Only Love Can Break Your Heart," he wrote that for me and Joan. I miss those kind of moments, but that connection has gone. And therefore I'll just be, complacent with my memories.
Was it hard to put it behind you? I mean, a lot of people go through same, whether it's relationship breakups of one sort or another. How difficult was it for you to just sort it in your own head, to say, okay, that was then, now we move forward and something new? When my body tells me that something is done, it's done for me. And that's what happened. It's quite simple, once again, we lost that connection, and we can't make that kind of music anymore. And so I look at that and I go, okay, if that's the reality, I'll accept it. I will grieve. I will come out of the other side, and I will let it go. Yeah, wise. I know that you don't see those guys anymore, but are you still friendly with Joni?
I'm still friendly with Joni and Stephen and Neil, and we talk often. As a matter of fact, Joni just left me a beautiful message on my phone. She was awarded, Person of the Year at the Grammys for Music Cares, which is a section of the Grammys that creates money to be able to help musicians that are down on their luck. Uh-huh. And each year they choose somebody as their figurehead. And last year it was Joan, right? And so everybody had to, wanted to do a Joni song. And I said, look, I'm on the road. I can't be there in person. I can make a video, but I want to sing A Case of You. It's one of the most beautiful, one of the most profound of Joni's songs. And that's what I did. And I made a pretty good job of it. And she left me a wonderful message about it. And so that was only a couple of weeks ago. So yes, we're still friends.
Oh, that's nice.
The truth is, once you have loved Joni Mitchell like I did, it's very difficult to let go of it, because it was such a beautiful time in my life. But once again, you have to move on.
You still love going out on the road. At 80 years old, you still embrace it, and you're about to start another tour coming July.
Yep, July 8th. I love it. You got to understand something, love. I'm lucky enough to only be able to do what the hell I want to do. Unbelievably lucky. And I am so grateful that I've been in this position since I was 18 years old. I've been able to do exactly what I want to do. That's unbelievable. And to this day, it is still that way. I get to do what I want to do. And it's unbelievably lucky.
So given that that's the case, and there are a lot of people that get carried away with their success and the ability to do just that, how do you manage to keep your feet on the ground and not to be totally self-centered?
I once took a bunch of acid and went to visit Stonehenge. After I'd done with resting in the middle of Stonehenge, as I did for probably a million years. There's a church quite close called Winchester Cathedral. But before that, there's a small church that has King Arthur's Round Table on it, on the wall. Now we know that it might be utter bullshit, but it's been utter bullshit for 400 years on that wall, right? Before I wanted to see King Arthur's Round Table. Do you know what a beefeater is?
No, not exactly.
A beefeater is one of the guards at the Tower of London, and they dress in those red costumes.
Okay.
This guy came out kind of similarly dressed like that, and he had a tray in his hand, and he goes, "There you go," and he pushes it towards me. Now I'm peeking. I'm on that LSD, right?
Yeah.
And on the plate were two small beakers, two small cups made of horn, and two small squares of bread. And he said, "There you go." And I'm looking at it, and I'm not grokking. I don't quite understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Who is this man, and what is he saying? And so as I'm looking, strangely at this tray, he looks at me and he says, "Wait a second, don't you know it's just okay to be?" I said, "What?" He says, "It's just okay to be. Just be. This is bread. This is wine. You are entitled as a traveler on this road of life to have this. We've been doing this for 400 years, giving travelers a little water, a little bread to make them happy on their journey. Don't you know it's just okay to be?" It was one of the most profound things that anyone has ever said to me.
Yeah.
Ever since that moment, I have known three things. One, we're a planet. Two, we are spinning in space at about 65,000 miles an hour. And B, everything is meaningless. And so having said that, everything becomes meaningful. And I realize that I'm a speck of dust on this one planet spinning through this space. I'm no big deal at all.
So how important is it to keep your glass half full?
I'm always trying to keep it full. I never did like half full glasses. I never did. I have always want to put some more ginger ale in there or some more water in there or something. Yeah, I'm looking, I want full glasses. I don't want a half full.
I love it. So out on tour in July, and will you be touring? You'll be touring on the back of this album too?
No, I don't think I'm going to bring this album out until next year. And the reason why is this. I've been singing with my friend Alan Clark. He has a solo record coming out in October, and I'm on all 10 tracks. So between the live album of Songs, Beginnings and Wild Tales, my book of A Life in Focus of my photographs, and the Alan Clark record, that kind of takes up this year.
Wow, you are so super busy. So the tour will be based off Beginners and Wild Tales?
Yeah, no, the tour will be everything from the Hollies to today.
Right.
And that's roughly there's 25 songs in a show. And I have written over 200. I have a lot of choices to make, and I'm having a great time. I really am.
Graham Nash, do you have an absolute favorite song?
Right now?
Yeah.
Of mine?
Yeah.
There are a couple of songs on this new record that you haven't heard yet that I really love. I'm always interested in the song I'm writing now. I can't do shit about Teach Your Children or Our House. Nothing I can do about it. It's 50 years ago. But I'm much more interested in these songs that you haven't heard yet.
Well, I can't wait to hear them. When do you think we're going to get a listen to these ones?
Probably spring of next year.
Will you talk to me again then?
Absolutely, Sandy.
Great. In that case, I'll let you go now. And I thank you very much for your time. What a pleasure talking with you.
You're very welcome. And by the way, that's a great shot of the Beatles behind you.
Oh, it is. You know, the story behind that, if you'll indulge me, I've been split up with my husband now for the last 14 or so years, but I think I bought it for him. It's a limited edition for his 50th birthday. And I paid a fortune for it. And when I left, I thought, you know what? It's coming with me. He didn't care that much anyway. So
if he didn't care, then he doesn't deserve it.
Exactly.
All right, Sandy, we'll talk again.
Look forward. Graham, all the very, very best. Have fun on the road.
Thank you very much.
Congrats with the album. Bye now.
Bye-bye.